Hey everyone, it is Dr. Mariam from Ask the Doctor, and I am joined by my favorite guest, Carol, CEO and founder of Sensia Allied Health. I'm also an occupational therapist and also a mother of 4, amongst many other amazing things.
Many hats.
many hats. And I got her in again. Yay. Today we are going to talk about many wonderful, great things.
Yep.
And I think these are important things that aren't spoken about often enough, to be honest.
Agree.
So I'm going to share my story and then ask you a few questions. So Carol's been a big part of this story as well. So as you all may be aware, I am a mother to 2 beautiful twin toddlers, Zach and Jacob, one of whom has recently been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder level 3. Really wanted to speak about my experience, not just as a parent, but as a doctor. And how difficult it was for me navigating the developmental delay space. I could tell something wasn't right with Jacob. You know, it was really hard seeing him and his brother play alongside each other, and I'm ticking off Zach, you know, he's meeting all these milestones, and just seeing Jacob lagging behind. And, you know, the alarm bell was ringing at the back of my head, and I was like, okay, I suspect my son might have a developmental disability. Even with my background in medical knowledge, I found it really difficult to navigate the space, getting a diagnosis, accessing early intervention, and it was really overwhelming. And I really want to advocate for parents out there that don't have the contacts that I have or accessibility that I was able to, you know, to get because of friends that I have, such as yourself. But it's a hard thing to navigate if you are a parent who suspects your child has a developmental disability. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was accessing early intervention. You know, as soon as I suspected Jacob was autistic, I got him into early intervention before a diagnosis. I knew that those wait lists can take anywhere from months to years. And putting him in to OT, speech therapy, I saw massive leaps with Jacob. And this is just my own personal experience, but I've seen it with lots of, you know, my patients and their children. And this is why I'm a massive advocate for early intervention. And obviously he's been doing OT at your clinic, which I'm so grateful for. So I just really wanted to talk to you about the importance of early intervention for children with a suspected, not a confirmed, not even just a confirmed, why it's so important, and the massive impact it can have for the child.
So absolutely, it's such an important area, and early intervention is key. We say this time and time again. As a medical profession, you would probably say this to so many of your patients.
That's right.
Getting quick. Screen early. Early detection is key. It's exactly the same for early intervention in the therapy space. The earlier a child begins services and the earlier they access services on their journey, the better the outcomes may be. And so those outcomes may be specific to the child's developmental milestones and their progression, as you've seen with Jacob. But there's also things that impact the wider community and their care network. And so for some parents or carers, it may be just linking up and being linked to certain support groups or other mums and dads and carers that are on the same journey that they are, or have at different stages of their journey. They may have already gone through this diagnostic phase and can give advice of, you know, what not to do or what to do, or based on their own experiences. And so sometimes we find those parents or those carers of, you know, children with these disabilities may find more comfort in starting the journey earlier, and also breaking down some of those barriers, because yes, as you said, there are so many barriers, and also there's a lot of stigma. And stigma is received and also acted upon quite differently based on the individual and their circumstances and their culture and everything that they also come with. So
so going into that, I really wanted to speak about cultural barriers. Something I fairly see often, you know, I see a diverse range of patients from culturally linguistic backgrounds. And I often find, you know, when I bring up the topic of, you know, the child development, it's kind of like, oh, no, we're not ready to discuss that yet. You know, my background's Lebanese, your background's Lebanese. And I actually found this even in my own personal space. You know, I started early intervention for Jacob, and I was getting a lot of people saying, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to damage the child, or
Yeah.
people are going to start speaking. And there's this real big stigma around therapy or disabilities in the community. And I often find, you know, these parents are hiding their children or not taking them to social outings or taking them to the doctors. And unfortunately, it's to the detriment of the child. You know, they're losing this prime opportunity. You know, their brain is a sponge. They've got this opportunity for therapy. You know, I always stress this with parents.
Yeah.
It's not about us labeling the child and giving them a diagnosis, but giving them access to this care and support. So just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, it's definitely there. It's quite prevalent.
Yeah.
And in different communities, as you said, culture plays quite a big role in this, and I've experienced this in different areas of my life, not necessarily specific to having a child with a disability, but we see some families who refuse to access services simply for the reason that they don't want to be spoken about within their communities. They don't want to feel pitied. They don't want to for people to be feeling sorry for them. They don't want people to be feeling sorry for their child. They don't want people to be giving the family that label that they're so afraid of. So that does affect access to services for some of these population groups. And it also, we're finding that some services are not, I guess, as culturally diverse in their approach or service delivery methods. And so that can also be a barrier to people culturally and linguistically diverse populations accessing some of these services.
Yeah.
Some cultures have the opinion that, or they will develop, they will get there.
Yeah.
You know, your uncle also, you know, his uncle didn't speak until he was 5 years old. And so maybe he's also delayed because of, you know, his uncle.
And that kind of provides that false reassurance. So it's just really important that we kind of reiterate that to any parent out there who is watching and suspects that their child may have a developmental delay or is just, you know, lagging behind in meeting their milestones. I really, really urge, and I'm really stressing, we're always going to advocate for what's best for the child. Speak to your GP. Get them in to see a speech therapist or an OT. I know it can be uncomfortable, and I know there are thoughts, especially as a mother, it's hard. It's really hard. You know, it's almost as if you go down that road, you're accepting that something is wrong, and then that's really scary. But you have to kind of step back and remember it is your child. You are advocating for your child. You need to give your child the best foot forward, and that is early intervention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Thank you so much for that.
No, it's a pleasure.